Now here's a model of my design for a 4-stage orbital rocket ship. Compared to the unmanned instrument rocket, it is quite large, but the overall size and weight of the rocket is mainly...
Man in Space was a technical tour de force. The scientific detail of the film was extraordinarily accurate. Von Braun even suggested the astronauts would return in a prototype version of what was to become the Challenger space shuttle.
The payload in the top section will consist of 10...
In effect, the film was a direct sales pitch to the American public for his belief in the reality of space travel.
If we were to start today on an organized and well-supported space program, I believe a practical passenger rocket could be built and tested within 10 years.
I was very young at the time, and I remember watching the show in like one of the commercial breaks or the end of the show, and I had asked my parents, you know, was that really real? And I think they said something like, well, no, I think Mr. Disney just made all that up.
Our spaceship moves ponderously toward the firing site.
After von Braun's introduction to man in space, his scientific theories were brought to life in an animated rocket flight.
I was also very positively affected by the fact that someone could take a dream or something that had not existed before and put it into a form that seems so absolutely real.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
At 7:30 on March the 9th, 1955, an 8-year-old Tim Delaney and 100 million others switched on their televisions to watch Man in Space. Equally enthralled was a 65-year-old viewer in the White House.
It impressed President Eisenhower. I can remember this, and the next day he phoned Walt, wanted to borrow a print of it. Walt wanted to know why. He says, I'm going to show it to all of those stuffed shirt generals that don't believe we're going to be up there.
Man in Space created a sensation. In the Pentagon, it was run and rerun in private screenings, while on June the 15th, due to massive public demand, it was also re-aired on television. On July the 29th, now assured that both the military and the people would back the huge expenditure, the American space program was launched. Kimball's factual film inspired Tim Delaney's fascination with the science fiction behind Space Mountain. The attraction is based on Jules Verne's 19th century novel From the Earth to the Moon, where a team of French and American explorers collaborate to build a cannon and fire themselves to the moon. But for the visual style of Space Mountain, Delaney hasn't relied solely on contemporary illustrations. The look of movies like Segundo de Chaumont's 1909 Excursion sur la Lune has provided a huge repertoire of early science visions. The extraordinary sets of the 1954 Disney version of another classic Verne novel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, has been the inspiration for the rivet and boilerplate aesthetic of Space Mountain. These influences are combined to create a pre-space age vision of future technology. And at the heart of the mountain is Jules Verne's Columbiad, a massive 15-ton cannon.
This cannon clearly represents the fact that this is an experience that when you get in it and you're launched, I mean, a cannon, big bang, launch, high speed, it will pay off.
But beneath the carefully art-directed exterior of Space Mountain is a private, unseen world of steam, oil, and electronics. Ron Hamming is part of the technical team who must make the cannon work.
Tower from Project 34, going through door 12.
There are 6 weeks to go.
The pusher vehicle consists of a chassis that's mounted on rails, mounted below the main ride rails, and has a fin that interfaces with the launch pole in the train. From this point, it launches the train up to the top of the catapult.
A mechanical engineer from Garrett Air Research, Hamming has devised a catapult launch system based on aircraft carrier technology.
We've come up with a concept similar to a very high-speed winch system, which acts as a catapult, but more reliably and more safely than something that the military would use for their pilots and their planes. This is the underside of the catapult. Train comes up here, the pusher vehicle attaches to the train and launches the train into the mountain. The whole catapult launch duration is over with in about 3 seconds. In this 3 seconds, they've transited about 50 meters of track. So it's comparable to going to about 0 to 50 miles an hour in about 2 seconds.
The G-force of 1.5 felt by the passengers is just the start. The physical thrust will be given additional psychological impact with movie-style special effects. A huge explosion, smoke, and stereo sound are being installed by special effects expert Jack Gillette.
I started over the studio. I was over there for about 5 years before I moved over to WDI. So a lot of the same technology that you see in there works back and forth. A lot of the special effects you see in the movies are for a one-time shot, though. And we have to make our effects go off 12 hours a day, 365 days a year. So that's kind of a challenge in itself, to make sure that you can not only do the effect once, but you can keep on doing it.
The connection with the movie business is not accidental. From the start, the company tried to bring the controlled experience of cinema to the theme parks.
Walt Disney wants you to step into the scene. That's why we call Disneyland on stage. And when the cast members, which our employees are called, go behind the scenes, or go out into behind the attractions and so forth, that's known as backstage. So Disneyland is a stage, and you're just stepping on the stage. We just deleted the seats.
In movies, music can change the mood of a scene in an instant. A synchronized score has never been possible in a ride, but Delaney is determined to use the musical power of films like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea to manipulate emotions on Space Mountain. Steve Bramson has won an Emmy for his work with Steven Spielberg. Now it's Space Mountain.
I wanted to have some swirling. I mean, we have, some kind of swirling effect, which is very hard for me to duplicate on the piano. You have all the brass very heroically playing, with the violins up here kind of singing away, and then when it's finally orchestrated to the way that the players will see it, you can see all this detail here. The idea of this sort of thing is taken exactly from a film. The only difference is you are there.
While Bramson struggles with the music in Los Angeles, in Paris the ride is tested for the first time, with sandbags instead of passengers.